Gardening is a passion for so many people. I can only imagine what's beginning to stir in their hearts as the weather begins to warm up. Today, as I'm making these notes, it's early spring, and all next week the temperature is supposed to be in the 50s and 60s, and this weekend it truly becomes official. The time changes. When my wife heard that the other day, the first thing she said was, "I've got to get in my gardens." I swear, she said it 3 times over and over as she started to get that look in her eye. Spring forward even sounds more dynamic and exciting than fall back, and as busy as she is, she'll make time for flowers, herbs, and all of her vegetables. And speaking of looks in her eye, believe me, it's not a good time or a place to be a weed, a mole, or any other creature that threatens her plants. That little woman can flat out wage war in her gardens. But I guess we're all that way towards the things that we're passionate about, and I'm there to support her in any way that I can because we're both deeply concerned about our own diets and the crippling impact our eating habits are having on our families, our American culture, and our overburdened healthcare system. I can get passionately behind all of that, but I'm definitely on the outside looking in when it comes to the simple, pure joy of getting your hands in rich dirt and working to plant. I love that about all you gardeners and the beautiful things that you grow. You don't have to love plants to deeply appreciate those who grow them. Any man who's bought flowers to express his affection, or maybe to help him get out of the doghouse, knows what I'm talking about. From the corner flower shop to large public botanical gardens to apartment patios, from yards artfully landscaped to the windowsills of your homes, you're all responding to a giftedness as old as man, a primal joyful impulse to plant, to cultivate, and to grow. In her beautifully done book, In Search of Paradise, author Penelope Hobhouse, she researched the history of gardening and wrote, "The story of garden design threads together 4,000 years of cultural history and personal vision. Throughout history, gardens have been refuges and sanctuaries. Records tell of their abundance, comfort, and beauty. From the oldest known gardens to the most recent designs, garden making has offered evidence of humankind's ongoing search for paradise." Now, you probably hadn't analyzed that growing a tomato, a carrot, or a petunia would go quite that deep, and while I bet that she's probably onto something, you don't have to go there to appreciate where I'm heading with all this garden talk. You see, we're all gardeners at heart, because each one of us cultivates an intensely personal, internal garden, the garden of our minds. When we consider the idea of our minds, we all understand that to be the home of all of our thoughts. Because we can't touch it, see it, or physically walk through the garden of our minds, we can tend to marginalize it, but it's just as real as any garden in the world. And this garden, it has the most profound impact on every area of our lives. We all know that we are what we eat. Well, it's just as true that we are what we think. And I can think of no better analogy for the human mind than the vegetable gardens that we plant every year. I said this before, but it's so foundational, it bears repeating. Your mind is who you are, it's incredibly fertile ground, and it will grow anything and everything planted there. I can't overemphasize the truth and the power of that statement. If you Google the question, how many thoughts do we think every day? The lowest number that I got was 12,000, and I think the highest number was 70,000. If you just average that out, it comes to a whopping 40,000 thoughts each day. And think of each thought as a seed with the potential to be planted in the most fertile soil on earth, the garden of your mind. In a stream of consciousness, every day, 40,000 thoughts flow through our mind. We entertain them, we reject them, or we allow them to be planted, and they become rooted in our spiritual DNA, encoded deeply into who we are, and the implications are enormous. Our thoughts say a lot about who we are and who we will become due to one of the most powerful laws in the universe, the law of sowing and reaping. As surely as the sun follows the moon, you will reap the full harvest of every thought planted in the fertile garden of your mind. In flower gardens, if you plant a rose, you're going to raise blooming roses. If you plant tulips every spring, you're going to enjoy tulips. If you plant tomato seeds, you won't harvest strawberries. You will raise and harvest exactly what you plant. So think deeply for a moment about the types of thoughts or seeds that we plant in the garden of our minds. Thoughts and seeds of joy, peace, and tenderness. Seeds of courage, honor, and wisdom. Seeds of empathy, forgiveness. Seeds of love. But we also think and plant seeds of bitterness, revenge, or indifference. Seeds of resentment, self-pity, or hopeless despair. In your mind's eye, Cast your vision across the span of human activity that covers the globe today, and you will be witnessing the harvest of all the thoughts of mankind. We reap what we think, and our harvest is revealed in every decision we make, every word we speak, and even every movement of our body language. Our thoughts are at the root of every action and reaction of every moment of every day of our lives. And the more deeply I engage in this whole thought process, the more stunned I am at the implications. And I'm going to explore this more deeply in the next few weeks, and I hope you'll listen in. I guarantee you, it's a process that can profoundly change and deeply enrich all of our lives. And what an excellent time to do it. If you're a gardener, I know you. I'm married to one. It's spring and you're getting excited. Whether you're urban, suburban, rural, you all love flowers, vegetables, berries, fruit trees. You love picket fences and stone walls, fountains of water you're keenly aware of. The feel of the warm sun and the sounds of birds singing and bees buzzing. Like a moth to a flame, you're drawn to all the sights and the scent of life in the garden. And as you enjoy working in your garden this spring, let's turn our hearts and our thoughts to another fertile place of incredible hope and promise, the garden of our minds. Let's begin to stop taking that garden for granted and think deeply about who a loving God has created us to be, and imagine all that could be planted in the fertile garden of our minds and harvested in our lives during this next growing season to come. Until then, have a great day.